Hey there, I'm Mr. Terry, a high school history teacher. Welcome back to another History Teacher Reacts video. We're heading back to a channel that I think is one of the best of the newer animated history channels out there, and that is BlueJay. And the video I wanted to check out, it's got a ton of views, over 2 million in less than a year. It is titled, How to Survive Victorian London. Ooh. Now, if you know about this era, this is the era of Industrial Revolution. London had some of the most densely populated populations in all of world history. And because of the era, it was also a very difficult place to live with all kinds of hazards and health issues. So forget what you've seen with a lot of movies, because hopefully you see what it was really like. All right, the original video link is down below. Make sure you are supporting BlueJay. And of course, let me know what you want me to be checking out. You can do that down in the comments or come on over to the Discord server. All right, let's get started.
Do you ever watch Downton Abbey and find yourself thinking, I should have been born in the Victorian era? Well, you're stupid. Firstly, because Downton Abbey takes place 11 years after the Victorian era, silly goose. And secondly, because life in Victorian London would be absolutely terrifying for someone accustomed to the luxuries of the 21st century. But let's say you somehow...
Yeah, unless you're an aristocrat. By the way, is Downton Abbey something I would be into? What do you guys think? You know me by now. I've been doing this a couple years. Something I'd be into? Let me know.
End up in a Freaky Friday situation and switch bodies with a bona fide Victorian. How are you going to survive the London streets?
It's a completely different life experience.
With my extensive background studying history, certified by my 90,000 Reddit karma, I'm here to teach you everything you need to know to survive the Victorian era.
Mid to late 1800s. Yeah, there's two different, completely different lifestyles happening between the working class and the upper class in this time. It's like night and day. Like different planets.
All right, so you just finished your Disney Channel style body swap and have officially transported over a century back in time to Victorian London. Yeah. What?
Pollution.
What is it, James?
Smog.
My body. What's happening?
Cholera.
It looks like during the body swap you've received a lethal dose of gamma radiation. Oh, and your hairline is receding. My hair? Oh yeah, actually 2 out of every 3 guys will experience some form of hair loss by the time they're 35. But about that radiation, BlueJay, how do I keep it? All right, weird priorities. Well, really the best way to combat hair loss would be with Keeps. It's a fantastic doctor-recommended online service that offers clinically proven treatment to stop hair loss and improve hair growth. They're customer-focused with a 24/7 care and support network of expert medical advisors and care specialists at the ready to help you with any questions you might have. Whether you're looking to prevent hair loss, stimulate hair growth, or honestly, if you just want to take better care of your hair in general, Keeps is perfect for you. They even got award-winning shampoo and conditioner. When's the last time you won an award?
This video was made for me.
Never? I know. Here you go. Now for the radiation. Well, at least they'll go out with luscious curls.
I don't think I was exposed to radiation.
To get 50% off your first order, go to keeps.com/BlueJay or click that link in the description. That's keeps.com/BlueJay. Thank you, Keeps, for sponsoring the video. Of course, Alex, you're gonna have to wait a few centuries until you've got internet again, as you're now in Victorian London. The city is booming from the results of the Industrial Revolution. The air is dense, but the stunning Gothic Revival architecture still manages to pierce through all the smog. It's a city of rapid expansion and expensive projects, starkly contrasted by the overflowing slums. But man, taking in all these new sights is really starting to make you thirsty. So you head on over to a well pump for a fresh sip of water. First mistake, what are you, crazy?
Don't do
You
that.
won't even survive a day here. You can't drink the water.
Garbage.
Cholera outbreaks are about as common as an office quote in a Tinder bio. The booming population of London, combined with newly introduced indoor plumbing, resulted in overwhelming amounts of raw sewage.
Yeah. So yeah, the cholera outbreak, one of the worst epidemics we've had in modern history, happen as a result of these dense living conditions. They couldn't handle the sewage. They, you know, the sewage system already in London, by the way, at this time was already a marvel compared to what the conditions were in London at that time, with how many people and how much waste they had to move. But yeah, it was one of the worst epidemics ever because you had sewage very close to your water pump, your neighborhood water pump, where you would get your water. And that was a horrible, you know, thing back then. And this is also when they were studying a lot of that stuff. And sanitation is going to be a big thing that ends up getting improved in the Industrial Revolution, and medical care in general. It's why a big reason why, one of the many reasons why since the Industrial Revolution, we have such longer life expectancies, because outbreaks like this are much more rare. And a lot of that due to sanitation and medical advances.
This sewage ended up in the Thames River, which happens to be London's main source of drinking water, thus completing the circle of life. During one cholera outbreak, Jon Snow, a supporter of germ theory, looked at all this sewage in their drinking water and had the hot take of, hey, what if we drink water, but without the poop? and ended the outbreak by ripping off the handle of a contaminated well pump. At the time, the community believed in the miasma theory, basically the idea that diseases were transmitted through foul odors. So government officials still rejected Snow's theory of fecal-oral transmission, stating, "Germs in the water? Don't be ridiculous. It was stinky air." And this wouldn't be the last time a Jon Snow's potential was shattered. So unless you want to die a painful death, I suggest boiling your water, or just stick to hard liquor, where the alcohol would not only kill any germs, but also help drown that regret you're starting to feel for wishing to be in Victorian London, instead of shutting up and playing Wordle like a good little consumer. Alright, now that you're properly shit-faced, you're gonna need to pinpoint your social class so you know who you're allowed to interact with.
Okay, going back to the Jon Snow thing, it was his was interesting because he was studying, so he was studying the cholera outbreaks and was trying to find the source. He was like a medical detective, if you will. And what he was able to find out is there was a specific water pump, and trying to figure out like why the people in this neighborhood were dying in such high numbers, right? And there could be a lot of reasons why, you know, especially with what they knew, but why people in a neighborhood would die. But the thing is, they found somebody that was not from that neighborhood, and I don't know how far away, but it was quite a long way, that had also died of cholera. But it was an outlier because that wasn't where the cholera outbreak was, right? So he went and investigated that, and I believe how it went was went and found out who this person was, and was looking at like a registry of the people that had suffered, maybe died from cholera, and saw that there was a similar name between that person that died, this woman or whatever that had died outside of that neighborhood, and somebody that had died or something there, or knew some, I don't know if they died or not, but where the cholera outbreak was. And he went and investigated and found out that was like, I think the mother or something that died in that outside area. And then come to find out that her son or whoever it was that she was related to in the outbreak area was bringing water to her from their pump where the outbreak was, all the way outside where this lady lived, outside of the outbreak. And so they narrowed it down that it must be the water. It must be the water. That's the one commonality that they had. And then when studying the water pump there, found out that it was very close to open sewage. And that's when it started to kind of unravel that this is where the cholera outbreak was, and this is how it spread. Not through the miasma, through the air, which, by the way, was a theory that had been around since, you know, forever. I mean, I remember they would talk about that during the plague in the 14th century, that's how it was spread. And of course, we know so much more about disease transmission. But anyway, that Jon Snow investigation is actually really important in medical history.
But isn't who I am inside more important than some social class? No,
Nope.
Simply talking to a social class higher than yours is enough to get you arrested here.
Still a
Luckily, it's
class-based
rather
system.
easy to find out which one you belong to. For example, are you over the age of 25 and alive? Then you're probably not in the lower class, as male tradesmen and laborers had life expectancies of 25 and 22, respectively. But let's say you find yourself a member of the...
Now, why is that? It's not because you're aging faster. It's because of your conditions are some that lend themselves to, again, things like disease, but also workplace accidents. This was an era where there was such little intervention in working conditions that, you know, it's some of the most dangerous working conditions we've ever had in human history. So, yeah, if you make it to that age, then you're in pretty good shape.
The respectable upper class. What can you expect from your newly found privileged life? Well, first off, you can kiss the thought of a hard day's work goodbye, because with the fortune your family has built over generations through certainly non-exploitive means, you'll never have to work a day in your life. So instead, you're gonna have to find out how to kill all this free time you got on your hands. Being a person with enough wealth to buy a handful of developing nations or one GPU, you decide to use your money to give back to the poor people whose blood, sweat, and Fossy Jaws helped you build your riches.
Ooh.
So you buy tickets to next Tuesday's Freak Show. Awful. Freak shows were essentially the MCU of the Victorian era, loved by people of all ages and social classes, except for pretentious people who prefer more refined entertainment, like seances. Everyone from your average Joe to Queen Victoria herself loved to goggle and laugh at all the different looking people.
Man, Queen Victoria, you see her face in every European ruler with her, you know, the family tree that goes out, if you don't know, that goes through many monarchies. But you know, like Russia and England and Germany and all that stuff, you can see those eyes. When I look at those, I just see like Tsar Nicholas, like Kaiser Wilhelm, you know what I mean? You can see it. Her genes just powered through Europe.
performing. These freak shows showcase people with physical abnormalities, such as dwarfs, conjoined twins, giants, fat people, thin people, hairy people, ethnic people, and whatever else they thought would pique people's curiosity.
Whoa.
Gather round, folk.
Hold on, let's take in some of the
People,
folks
hairy
here.
people, ethnic people.
So some of it was just like pure like racism, I guess, with that Madame Gostika, who's just, you know, you have the people that have the discs, right, and just like, look at, they're a freak. Right, some cultural thing. We got the skinny guy, Isaac. Got to have the Wookiee looking guy. Right, bless his heart, having to deal with the hair like that. You know, overweight people again, which is just not something you had a lot back in those days. Just because, you know, our food production since the Industrial Revolution is just so insane. Where in many parts of the world now we have a greater problem with obesity than we have starvation. So anyway.
And whatever else they thought
it's
would
just
pique
weird
people's
that like this idea of like
gather
freak
round,
shows
folks,
existed.
Gather round, for I'm about to unveil the wonders of the world. Realities beyond your comprehension. Freaks from distant and foreign lands. Meet the man of hair. The precious Piper Pinky. Oh my God, she's small. And behold,
She's small. So it's
Paul. I thought this was a freak show. Oh, trust me, Paul's a freak. However, the reign of freak shows came to an end as reports of mistreatment of the performers came to light, and the public was furious to find out that the people they went to laugh at for being less than human were being treated as less than human. But now that you've reached your limit of being near the working class who aren't actively carrying your dry martini on a silver platter, it's time for you to build your social status with your fellow aristocrats. To do this, you're gonna have to capitalize on some of the trends of the time. No, not child labor, we'll get to that later. I'm talking Egyptomania. Napoleon's campaigns in Egypt brought back trade and artifacts to Europe, eventually igniting a craze for all things Egyptian in the West due to its perceived exotic nature. This craze peaked.
You think the British ever give back the Egyptian stuff? I know that's been the big controversy now forever. All that stuff all needs to go back to Egypt. Do you think that'll happen? And what do you think would it would require for the British to give back so much of that stuff they took from Egypt and elsewhere around the world? I mean, biggest empire ever.
Peaked during the Victorian era, and Victorians sure had interesting
like
ways of indulging in this trend.
I didn't know they went that far though. Like, I'm gonna dress like Cleopatra.
Not the Brendan Fraser kind, they weren't that based. Specifically, they held mummy unwrapping parties. Getting your hands on a mummy was the easy part. You could literally cop one from street vendors in Egypt like a pin from Disney World, but unwrapping them required a trained...
Yeah, I mean, the British dug up so much stuff and were making a fortune off of this stuff on like black markets. Not even really necessarily black markets, but yeah, you get your own mummy, you get like all kinds of manuscripts, you know, get a Book of the Dead scroll or something like that, if you got the money for it, of course.
Professional called an unroller. Why exactly they had to hire a professional to do some glorified banana peeling is beyond me, but I can only assume that their training involved a significant amount of fruit by the foot. Essentially, a bunch of people would gather around to watch the unroller unwrap the mummy and perform an autopsy, including cutting into the skull to go, oh my God, look, he's got a brain. That's crazy. Fragments of the pungent mummy wrappings were then passed throughout the audience for their pleasure, I guess. What am I supposed to do with this? Well, today we recognize hosting an unboxing party for corpses and disgracing people's histories the most optimal way to speedrun a Twitter hashtag. The Victorians just couldn't help but satisfy their intrigue. And in their defense, they basically came gift wrapped. But if you need any more convincing on how evil this practice was, the most famous unwrapper was a surgeon named Pettigrew. But overall, in the upper class, you don't need to worry all that much about staying alive. Except for the arsenic in your walls, lead on your dolls, corsets in your torsos, cyanide in your photos, strychnine in your tablets, explosive bits of plastic, kitchens full of toxins, morphine for your youngins, mercury-coated hats, radiation from your glass, kerosene in hair products, and asbestos in just about everything.
It's just like everything's gonna kill you. everything wants to kill you. London is basically Australia. Everything here wants to kill you, and all your luxuries of being upper class are killing you. Your wallpaper's killing you. Your medicine, because back then it was just drugs, right? Just meth and cocaine, or, you know, all that kind of thing. There's cyanide in your photos. Your pool balls are full of explosive stuff. Oh my gosh. Yeah, the corsets. Oh, what a horrible thing that was for your health. Lead painted toys. Shoot, it doesn't sound any safer being upper class than lower class.
Good luck. But what if you aren't lucky enough to live the life of a Victorian Scrooge McDuck, and instead you find yourself living la vida pobre in the working class? Okay? Hold off on the booze there, buddy. As tempting of a coping mechanism alcohol is, we gotta make sure you even survive childhood first. By
the way, the alcoholism at its height during the Great Depression, I mean the Industrial Revolution, massive in places like Britain, the United States. Of course, it got so bad that it pushed a movement for, of course, prohibition, which was the banning of alcohol that went into the Constitution and was there for years and years before it got repealed. But yeah, people turning to it because of the harsh living conditions and things. A lot of people took to drinking for their problems, and it's, you know, tragic. It had to come to that.
Let's put you in a humble family of 7 kids, and shit, 4 of your siblings just died. What? Oh yeah, nearly 60% of working class children died before the age of 5. Good for you, champ. You won the coin toss. I need to lie down. So long as it's in a
Another
minor
thing that
chimney,
changed a lot.
it's time for you to get to work.
The successful birth rates since this era have, of course, been huge. I mean, now it's very rare for child mortality when, a mother, you know, traditionally, actually just in world history in general, might lose half of their children before they receive or get to adolescence, and a lot of that being much sooner. And a lot of it goes back to the strength of the mother. The mother needs to be strong and nutritious and have, you know, those kind of the diet's got to be good. So again, it's just science. Like, healthier women are going to give birth to healthier children, but then added to that, like you're seeing here, those other living conditions of living in those environments being so harmful. So double the potential of, you know, tragic infant mortality.
Work. I'm 5 years old, and about time you started contributing to the family, you lazy leech. Without child labor laws,
time,
working class
baby.
kids started working as early as 4 years old. Now pick your poison: chimney sweeping or coal mining.
That kid is posing. All right, no kid was that happy. That kid might be an actor in one of those plays. What's the one? The chimney sweep ones. Yeah, it was terrible. Hey, those kids can get in some little places, like you can see there in the top right image. Get into those mine shafts. Kids had their benefits. They're paid less, could help again because of their small stature, and just take advantage of the poor community, which couldn't afford to let their kids go to school. And that's unfortunately is going to give a cycle of poverty. These kids that enter the workforce at 5 are never going to get higher end educations where they can really break out of this this cycle that is going to persist, where if you're going to a low wage job, by the time you're out, whether it's, you know, you get to live to old age, which you'll be lucky to do, you're never getting out of that cycle of poverty. Then your kids are going to be, you know, in poverty. To break that barrier between the classes really required education. And if you can't get in school, then you're not going to break that barrier. So cycle of poverty.
Oh, well, I suppose it's just a 9 to 5. 9 to 5. No. Victorian children were expected to work 12 to 18 hours a day. Gotta beat out that optimism early. Besides, you've only got that small stature for so many years. Companies have to capitalize on your ability to squeeze in the tight spaces while you can. Now, these are still your formative years.
Go down the
you gotta
chimney.
make sure you
Stick your
choose the
hand in
child
that spinning
profession that'll cause
machine.
the least amount of physical and emotional trauma. There were a lot, but let's
Legends.
narrow it down to chimney sweep and coal miner and weigh some pros and cons. As a coal
Look at
miner, you
The kid's like 1.
let's narrow it down to chimney sweep and
Look at that. You're in a tiny, adorable ladder, and he's covered in filth. See, these kids that especially go into these like things with the environmental hazards of, again, like coal or lint, they're all gonna have health problems, right? Especially these coal miners, they're gonna develop that, the black lung disease, that stuff, get lung cancer. They're all gonna get it. They're all gonna get it.
coal miner and weigh some pros and cons.
That kid right there
As
is
a
not
coal
going to
miner,
live.
you can expect some
adulthood.
permanent eye damage due to eye
Not to-
strain
not
from
to
the dark
elderly
environment,
age.
respiratory problems from coal dust, permanent spine deformation due to stooping, and of course there was the occasional explosion or cave-in. But on the bright side, you're essentially playing the closest Victorian equivalent to Minecraft. As for chimney sweeps,
But they're learning a good work ethic, okay? That is invaluable.
say goodbye to the skin on your elbows and knees, as that's all getting scraped off. You'll experience some irreversible lung damage from all the soot, and there's a high risk of death from falling or getting stuck in the tight chimneys. But at least you can die happy knowing that when Mary
Claustrophobia,
Poppins comes out in 100 years, Dick Van Dyke will forever cement your profession as much cooler than it actually was. So assuming you survive your childhood profession, it's time for the big boy world. Now, I know the idea of living poor in a Victorian city is probably a terrifying concept, but don't worry. The Victorians actually put in some effort to help the poverty-stricken wastes of oxygen excuse me, less fortunate folk. For example, if you're homeless, you can escape the cold at a penny sit-up, where for the small price of 1 penny, you get to sit on a bench in a shelter for the night. Whoa, now don't get too crazy. You're not allowed to sleep here. What do you think you are, a human? You only paid for the privilege of sitting, and penny
What?
sit-ups
You're
even had
paying to
monitors
sit?
to ensure you didn't fall
I
asleep.
did not hear about this.
If you're looking to catch some Z's, you're gonna have to cough up an extra penny at a 2-penny hangover. Don't get too excited. Contrary to the name suggests, a two-penny hangover is not a charity dive bar where you can drink yourself into an ethanol-induced coma. Instead, it was a
What is
rope
it?
that you literally hung over. Not the most comfortable experience, but at least you'll be the
This is supposed to be like your relief. You can pay to sit on a bench because there's nowhere to sit and hang against a rope. We're paying for that? We can't even afford chairs?
coolest kid on campus with your minimalist hammocking setup. The rope was ideal because it allowed the staff to quickly dispense with all the poor people in the morning. But hey, maybe it was a good day at the factory and you walked out with 4 pennies in your pocket, you little aristocrat you. Well, you can afford to be a high roller and head on over to a 4-penny coffin. Yep. While it may look like you just got shipped back from the Crimean War, a 4-penny coffin was quite the step up from a rope, to be fair. You got to spend the night in a nice coffin, you had a tarp to keep warm, and you even got assigned your own little serial number, which is...
Yo, you got to pay to sleep. Right? The thing you need to do every day for 8 hours a day to be healthy. Let's be kidding. Let's not kid ourselves. They're not getting that. But yeah, you had to pay to sleep. You had to pay to sit. You had to pay to lean on stuff.
This is undoubtedly the closest you'll ever get to being acknowledged in your life. Speaking of life, you better get used to this one, as people didn't exactly graduate from social classes.
Right.
So the only 4 walls you'll likely ever get to call home will be a coffin at best, or a coffin at worst. If you can afford it. But on the bright side, if you manage to survive through the era, you'll get to experience many of the following significant discoveries and advancements. Woo! America found its second manifest destiny with the discovery of crude oil in 1859.
Yo, I was gonna say, we'll see if we get to it. You survived that era. Guess what you get to experience? World War I, the Great Depression, World War II. This is going to be a fun 50 years.
9. Charles Darwin published his book on the concept of evolution, meaning that in a few centuries we may evolve past thinking crocs are cool. Darwin's half-cousin Francis Galton
and another
took this research and started modern eugenics, which led to problems. Alexander Graham Bell patents the telephone in 1876, a device that changed the world by allowing people to learn about their car's extended warranty. Germ theory would become accepted by the end of the Victorian era, and nobody would doubt doctors.
We found that out as a society, unfortunately, way too late. Do you know how many lives we would have saved if we knew about germ theory back in the plague? If anyone could go back in time, can we get that before the plague?
Ever again. The 19th century saw many innovations in data visualization for statistics, which are used today for optimizing shiny Pokemon encounter strategies. The Bezimer process gave us bigger buildings for more people. Modern artillery gave us smaller buildings for less people. Radiation was discovered in 1896, leading the cancer treatment in Imagine Dragons. The Navier-Stokes equations were developed to describe the motion of viscous fluids and weed out chemical...
Community, what do we think of Imagine Dragons? I can't decide if they suck or not, or if they're good. Let me know down below.
Engineering students. And Carl Benz builds the world's first car while simultaneously killing the concept of peaceful suburban life. And those are...
By the way, let's just look at how awesome the Benz
builds the world's first
patented automobile. I love the big wheels. Those bikes that they had, the bicycles, right, with the tiny front wheel or the tiny back wheel and the big front wheel. Those things were so, I don't know, swaggy. They need to bring those back. I know it's more efficient to have the smaller wheels, but it just doesn't have the swag. Same with cars. We need the swag mobile. Okay.
Car while simultaneously killing the concept
I don't think that
of
thing was very practical.
Life.
By the
and those
way.
are just a few...
I would say practical cars weren't really until Henry Ford's Model T.
Few of the significant advancements made during the iconic Victorian era. So, Alex, are you excited for your new Victorian life? You want to go home and play Elden Ring?
Oh, the game's pretty hard.
The Victorian era.
Gotta kick your butt.
Disgusting and deadly, but inspired Bloodborne. 3 out of 10 stars.
Great video. Final thoughts. All right, another great video from a great channel. I think this is the third BlueJay video I've seen now. I'll link those here around me here as the video ends, so you can check out some of the other reactions. But great stuff, man. Victorian era. I'm very much interested in that era and of industrialization and the social political problems that come with it. And remember, all this stuff and this wealth and technological development is all going to peak an even uglier head when these world wars break out, where you start to utilize these things. So, what a time to be alive or to die in, because that's what happened to a lot of people. Anyway, what did you think of the video? What did you think about Victorian London there? Let me know down below. Again, thank you to BlueJay for making this. Hopefully all that watch this and are sticking with me learned some stuff from the video as well as my added commentary. And if you like this, definitely follow along. Got all kinds of stuff and so much more for the future for you. All right, with that, we'll see you next time. Bye.